an original.
From Story Studio Network.
Once around the park, James, and don't spare the horses.
Here we go, the 9th day of June, and it's already kind of a quiet, almost getting to be a dusty place at Queen's Park. Yesterday was the last time the MPPs were sitting at the legislature. They've taken their summer break. To be fair, the committees will continue to do their work throughout the summer, so there will be some comings and goings at Queen's Park. This is On the Ledger Ontario Politics Podcast. Dave Trafford here from Story Studio Network, and Keith Leslie joining us. And you often hear and see him on CHTV, giving his commentary on all things political out of the park. How are you?
Very well, very well.
You getting over the aftermath of the fires? I guess of the weather has actually, I think, helped in terms of the experience down east, right?
Nova Scotia fires got exactly the rain we were called for last weekend, and it came down heavy and hard, and it put out helped them get control of the worst of the fires. People are going back to their homes now, or going back to view the properties where their homes are gone. Mm-hmm. But at least there's some normalcy returning, and the air quality, ironically, is fine throughout Nova Scotia, except for one area down in the southwest where that one fire is still burning, that large fire. So everyone else in North America, it seems, is suffering or seeing the very visible effects and feeling the very tangible effects of the smoke. We're not.
Yeah. Well, here we're today in Toronto, first time that they've sort of lifted the danger air quality warning, and but again, the weather's taking a bit of a turn, a little cooler, a little wetter here, so that's not affecting the fires, but I think you're starting to see that across the province. But boy, I'm watching some of the numbers, like 10% of all the forests that we have in this country at one point was on fire last week, midweek.
It's just incredible.
We got a lot of forest, so that's a lot of fire.
It is, and Premier Ford got into a bit of trouble, in talking in the legislature. He was going up to the last day of the session. He's going to talk about all the achievements they've had, what their government's done, and he literally hits out with, "Ontario's economy is on fire."
Yeah,
and he proceeds. Now I know he literally was not thinking about the forest fires. He in no way he was not making a pun.
No,
this was just Doug Ford speaking the way Doug Ford does. But when people are literally choking on the visible air outside,
you taste it.
Well, that's what I mean. This was not perhaps the best choice of words.
Having said that, though, the day before, in question period, Marit Stiles is questioning him around, okay, the fires that are there make it really clear that we're in the middle of a climate crisis. This is the earliest, this is the worst season we've seen. And his answer came back, well, I can't believe you're politicizing
it might be clear to you that the climate change is doing that, but
yeah.
No. And she didn't even say that climate change was the cause. Just please acknowledge that climate change is making these fires worse.
Yeah.
That's the situation. And he comes back with, wildfires have always been caused. We've always had them. They've been caused 50% by men or man, and 50% by lightning strikes and Mother Nature, as it were.
That may still be true, but there's a lot more of catching fire because of the dry tinder and all this stuff. And I just think, heading into this break, and that's the lasting thing that, I realize it's down in the weeds, but holy shit, there was a better response, and she clearly could have been prepared for it.
Well, there was a worse,
express concern for the communities that were being affected by the fires.
And just acknowledge, look, I wasn't talking about the fires. Obviously, that's a huge, as you say, just a huge concern. He stopped short of Donald Trump's, blaming California because they didn't vacuum the forest floors. So he could have gone, it could have been worse.
Yeah, I guess.
But yeah, again, it was just, as I say, for the NDP tried to pounce on this and make it he doesn't care. No, come on. This is just Doug Ford being a little bombastic in the legislature and touting what he rightly feels are his government's major accomplishments here. They're getting more privatized healthcare in here. They've opened up the Greenbelt for development. Now, he didn't quite put it in those words. But he was boasting a lot of his government's achievements, and that's a fair thing to do. But I don't know if the NDP was politicizing the climate change or the wildfires issue, but for him refusing to even acknowledge that, hey, the situation's clearly gotten far worse, and our governments have to plan and budget for. I remember Dalton McGuinty saying, we've got reports now, all our infrastructure needs to be beefed up because not just the wildfires, but the ice storms are coming more and heavier. And all these different, the storms are more extreme on all ends. So wildfires being compared to a storm here. So this is not new. And for him to have that sort of tone deaf analogy as opposed to, here's our plans, it's just tone deaf.
Yeah. And even to say, we've, well, on the other side of this, Marit Stiles comes out with this line that, and he's going to plow under the largest carbon sink in the province, the Greenbelt. It's not really the largest one. I mean, there's boreal forest that goes on for hundreds of miles in northern Ontario, might capture a little bit more carbon than the Greenbelt. So the rhetoric on both sides.
Well, never let the facts get in the way of a good debate
right?
in the legislature. I mean, come on.
It is question period after all. It's not answer period.
Exactly.
Right. A couple things that did get royal assent. It looks like the Bill 112 green light to for the Peel Region divorce. So that's
that went through in a hurry, didn't it?
No kidding.
It's called the Hazel McCallion Act. In case I don't know if Hazel ever acted that quickly. But surprisingly, not only it passed quickly, passed unanimously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
so Patrick Brown, you're on your own.
Yeah. Here you go.
He's not too keen on this from what we've seen, right? I mean,
well, in terms of how they're going to
he's being cut loose.
Well, but it's also around what he's not really fussy about is the idea that we can do this without actually talking about the numbers. And now we're going to have to go in and do the audit. So, yeah, the legislation's there. All the dirty work has to be done now, right? It's kind of the opposite of the divorce. They've signed off and you're divorced, but now we're going to have to figure out who gets the house, who gets the kids, and who's going to pay for the car.
And who gets the water system.
Yeah, all that, right? The police, the all of those things that, and I kind of went down in the weeds on some of it, but that's where this argument is going to happen. All of the places where the region has its authority and should, for example, road maintenance. Mm-hmm. Who's going to plow the road? Does that mean Mississauga and Caledon and Brampton all have to have their own road maintenance? Bonnie Crombie saying there's a way to actually combine these services. Okay, then what's the point?
Yeah. As you say, the accountants are going to be having the say here. They're going to be the ones digging into this. Well, we haven't seen that start yet, and we also haven't seen or had word from the government when are the accountants going to go in and do these forensic audits for the cities, for the municipalities, so they can be, as the quote is, made whole for the loss of the development charges. The province's contention, of course, is that the cities are just sitting on so much money that they don't need to have these development charges because they could just, use their own current finances better, and that these development charges are adding to the cost of homes and slowing down housing production. Well, where's the accountants? Where's the forensic audit? Where is it? If this is such a hurry, you're falling further and further behind on your goal of 1.5 million homes. Why haven't we starting this process? Your municipalities are almost fighting you. They just want to be made whole. They want to know where the loss of this development charges are coming from, and they're not being told. They're not giving any idea really, other than we're going to audit your finances. Well, let's get on with it then. Let's do something. So this is a government. They're claiming to have made some significant progress here. They also made significant. They passed a bill to give themselves more power over school boards. Mm-hmm. Good idea, I guess, given the school board's mishandling, let's put it, of several issues this year. But what exactly is in there? What specifically are they going to be doing? We're going to better student outcomes. I mean, province is going to impose what on whom? They're going to consult. So all of it just seems, yes, they're taking bold action to give themselves more power to go in new directions. But what exactly is being done and what exactly is going to be achieved here? There's a lot of talk with stalling, but we need to get especially these audits for the development charges for the municipalities, see where they're going. But at the same time, the government's talking, well, we're going to, we've passed the Hazel McCallion Act. We're looking at a number of other regions to de-amalgamate, or however you want to call it. Yeah. Boy, we're taking on a lot of governance issues here. And if we take them on as quick as we did the Hazel McCallion Act, people are just going to wake up one day and the problem's going to be significantly changed and no one's going to have noticed or voted for it.
Well, and it's not going to be any less, more affordable at that level. I mean, the people in Brampton are looking at this thing, okay, if push comes to shove, my property tax at this rate is going to have to go up. And then let's face it, in Toronto, there's going to be a reckoning here.
Oh, Toronto's property taxes are going to be reckoned with sooner or later. They have to be.
They have to be. And the story in the news today locally is about the homeless encampments and the number and how much they've increased. And everybody's all of a sudden kind of worried about this. And where the hell have you been? You don't have to. We were downtown yesterday, and it's obvious. Just walking around, you can see there's more presence on the street of homeless people, encampments, there's tents, and so on. At the heart of that, and you will know this as well as anybody, is the whole question around housing. And we talk a great game at all three levels of government. You know, we've got the housing strategy federally and so on. We've got the million homes in Ontario, and we want to do blah, 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 blah at the municipal level. This problem is growing faster than we can even think of solutions. And right now, the folks at who are running the shelters in Toronto saying we have overspent already $317 million. That's not going to be there for shelters in January of 2024. What? You think it's bad now?
Why these millions?
Where's that money going to come from?
These millions and millions of dollars. We've seen other countries, Finland, Norway. They come in with these small little, they're even smaller than the mini homes. There's this little basic encampment almost, but you house people. You house these people and you give them the service they need. If they need, mental support service, you do your best to get them there. But if they have a house, if they have an address, if they don't have to try and carry their belongings around in a shopping cart or in an encampment downtown, if you can house these people, their lives turn around significantly. And it does not have to be any sort of, 2-bedroom with a 2-bath. No. Just
exactly.
The most basic shelter accommodation that gets them. Like, my God, I used to walk past Allen Gardens every day, twice a day on my way to and from work and cut through it all the time.
Yeah.
No,
you don't.
I go around the edge and my jaw's literally dropped.
Yeah.
And your heart goes out at the same time for these people. It's not just the loss of the park. These people are trying to live in downtown Toronto and in tents and in hovels and with a generator running here and there. What the hell is it? Come on. And then the money that's spent, that won't be there. As usual, we're overspending already. Buy the little houses. Find some places. There's definitely, lots of housings. We've talked about school boards owning a lot of property. Let's put up the churches.
All of this happens, though, as they start to wind down the hotel shelter, Remember, they've got the hotels that were in place to house some of these. And then there was problems with that, there's no question. But there was a remedy there during COVID. And now that we're out of COVID, they've, the Novotel, for example, was one of the hotels that they used and no longer there. So, and I understand that there were problems in there. And that can be remedied in terms of how you manage what goes on inside the building, et cetera. But we're taking beds out of the system, even as we're saying we need to deal with the problems in the park. Well, it's simple math. You've taken all these shelters out of the system. Where the hell are these people supposed to go?
Yeah, the math goes nowhere close to adding up, and it's a human tragedy. And what are we doing? We're spending more and more money ineffectively in ways we know are not totally effective. Shelters are running at 99% full. Encampments are pumping up. It was, 2 years ago, we were all looking at California and going, geez, how the hell's that happen?
Yeah.
Well, now we know, don't we? Mm-hmm. Very fast. If the supports aren't there, and the post-COVID, I think you're right, the post-COVID funding and helping, it's gone. People are out on the streets and trying to survive out there. This again, it's a human tragedy. Governments need to be responsible. We need new ideas now.
Well,
not
you need
more
action.
Studies. That's what I mean. Like,
Right.
Implement.
Yeah.
Take some of these best practices from other countries. I know we always seem to be looking towards the Scandinavian countries, Norway and Finland. Well, they seem to be tackling these issues. I know they have smaller populations in a smaller geographic area, but we're talking about basically the city of Toronto at this point. Mm-hmm. That's where the core problem. I know Hamilton as well has a serious problem with encampments now as well.
Yeah,
so
it's getting to be
let's deal with them then. Let's stop it before all of a sudden it's London and Windsor and come on, deal with it now and deal with the people.
Hey, I spent some time down around Peterborough way, and you're starting to see a lot of that happen, particularly on George Street, the main drag there. Would used to be a vibrant sort of downtown, small town spot. In some of these smaller towns, the addiction issues are front and center. That lends itself to the homelessness and so on. Listen, before we go, I want to look at two things. Ford Fest is going ahead, and it looks like it's going to be just before the mayoral vote here in Toronto.
Total coincidence.
Interesting. Yeah. Just good fun there. And in Scarborough, by the way, right?
Yeah.
Where there's going to be a by-election coming up because Mitzi Hunter has stepped down. So an interesting bit of politicking there. I wonder if the AG has ever, the Auditor General has ever kind of looked into Ford Fest without, how much is that is kind of blurry money in terms of campaigning.
Yeah, it's definitely donations in kind, if nothing else. I mean, but is it campaigning? It's something that was on before, certainly before he was premier, and
Sure.
This is a long-standing family practice.
But that was in the backyard of the house.
Yeah, it's gotten slightly bigger.
A little different. Yeah.
But I think I think Doug Ford would be offended if someone actually complained that he had done somehow wrong here. And
of course,
because in his heart, I truly don't think he sees this politicking in any way. This is just him and his family doing their thing.
Just like the weddings and the stuff.
It's just
stag and doe.
The rules are the rules, but I know in my heart I'm a good guy.
So, but you know what? I think he's going to have to be doing a little bit more. Oh, I expect he'll be doing a lot of that over the next few months, just because Angus Reid puts him down at 33% approval rating this week. That's a bit of a dip, where he was riding real high during COVID, even in the last.
Well, a year ago when he got elected, 45%.
And then in the fall, he seemed to kind of floating in the 40s, and so I don't know quite what has kind of turned that dial. But down in the low 30s, again, we're way out from.
Well, I think a lot of he is getting a lot of negative publicity on the Greenbelt stuff and on the privatization of the healthcare. They're taking it hard, and those are people that are willing to people that are disagree with him on this are very willing to speak to pollsters or anyone else about how he's taking the province in the wrong direction. So that he's down to 33%. I think if John Wright were able to join us this morning, he would have said, "Yeah, but all he needs to do is get up to 38, and he's got it back."
That's right. Yeah. Yep, and that's why I say a lot of the burgers and stuff will be flipped this over the summer. Interesting to see that they've delayed the return to the legislature until the 25th of September. I think it was supposed to be a week or two earlier than that.
Yeah, 2 weeks earlier on the 11th.
Yeah. Now, is that to be able to get out and shake babies and kiss hands?
Well, absolutely.
The
The government house has actually said they want to make sure everyone can attend the international plowing match, which is on the 19th.
Which is, of course, the priority for every person in Ontario.
Well, the legislature always takes 2 days off to go to the international plowing match. But so they don't need to take an extra 2 weeks, though, to do it.
That's right.
Because the legislature could come back on the 11th and then take the 2 days off to go to the plowing match. And It's the plowing match, for those who are not familiar, they set up, they pick a farmer each year, and the international plowing match people, they take his property. They just create basically a mini agricultural city or a small town, and it's one-stop shopping for the farm vote for every politician, federally and provincially. Everybody comes, and it's a fantastic thing to attend. I mean, it really is a lot of fun and such a different slice of Ontario life. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't require 2 weeks off the legislature to attend. I think the 2 days would normally. So why they're taking this extra 2 weeks? Perhaps it's lending a bit more credence to the fact that these constant rumors of a cabinet shuffle coming. Although, given the Premier's defense of Caroline Mulroney this week, who seemed to be the basis for a lot of these shuffle rumors, he made it pretty. She's not going anywhere. He stood up and gave a wholehearted defense of her as his transportation minister. And so I think he was trying to. I don't know if he's going to quash the shuffle rumors, but I think she's going to stay where she's at. But if there were to be a shuffle, this gives the new cabinet ministers an extra 2 weeks to get up to speed on their file, and an extra 2 weeks not to face question period.
Yeah, and it also means that the education minister's not in the house when school gets back.
Oh,
September.
yeah. Well, and of course, there's some negotiations going on at some point.
Yeah. Still.
Gee whiz.
Ongoing. That's good. Listen, Keith, thanks for being here today. We'll, what I'm probably going to do for the sake of those of you listening, with the legislature, not sitting, typically we would not be doing the podcast on the weekly basis, but there'll be things that'll come up. And I think what we need to do is, reset things after we get a new mayor here in Toronto.
Absolutely.
So that week will, because, that $317 million, as an example for shelters, among the $1 billion that we're short in Toronto, somebody's going to have to make up for it, and there'll be a question from the new mayor to the premier.
Well,
hello.
We also want to know if the new mayor is going to support, and this is one thing I want to touch on before we go, support the Therme Spa at Ontario Place. They're going to fight them on that. And we found out this week at committee, God love committees, that Therme and anyone else that was looking to come in, any other potential private developers that were looking to come into Ontario Place, demanded that the province provide this parking, which turns out is going to be a $450 million 6 or 8-story parking structure at Ontario Place that the public, taxpayers, are going to have to pay for. We knew that, but we didn't know that Therme had demanded this and got it. Okay, so how about we not build a multi-story parking garage on the waterfront, and we not build a big spa there, and we take the $450 million and create a really beautiful family park. Done. And done in a year, not in however, and without a 99-year lease.
Well, I would just say, in terms of priorities, if we're going to spend $450 million, $317 million of it could go and cover the shortfall for the shelters.
There we go. Bingo. You and I have just fixed it right there.
It's all done. Listen, pal, it's good to talk to you, and we'll be in touch on the post-election analysis.
Absolutely.
All right, Keith Leslie from CHTV. I'm Dave Trafford. This is On the Ledge, your Ontario Politics podcast for Story Studio Network.
This is SSN.
Story Studio Network.